What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how to become a freaking movement god. Because if you can move very fluidly, you're not only incredibly hard to hit, but you can go exactly where you need to dominate your opponents. So let's break it all down right now. Now we're putting this into three separate sections. First is the fundamental movement rules that you have to get down perfectly before you can move on to the more fun stuff. The movement tricks that can be used in different games to give you an advantage, and then the god tier movement tips so that you can move just like the pros do and just fly through the game like a god. Now the first thing that you need to understand about mobility is you can deny it. You can do things that actually hurt your own mobility or chances of winning engagements. The first thing that you could do is just crouching all the damn time. You basically make it to where you have to completely uncrouch before you can move again at full speed. You're very slow, you don't have that fluidity of motion, and you're a super easy target. You also need to make sure that you're moving to places directly without hurting your gunplay. So not moving across maps diagonally or things like that. You need to make sure that you're moving from left to right, from point A to point B, clearing one angle at a time, because on the enemy screen, you're gonna move the fastest, moving from left to right, and you're gonna make sure that you can stop and actually counter strafe, because if you're moving diagonally, it's very difficult to do so, and it's gonna be a lot easier challenging one angle at a time. Now, there are a lot of different movement tricks that you gotta know if you want to be able to outplay oppers, gather free info. I mean, the list goes on. And of course, you need these movement tricks to carry on to the god tier movement section we're gonna get to in a second. But of course, we have more tips and tricks on the GameLeap website you can go check out down below. Now, of course, you need to understand jump peaks. The idea behind these is just gathering information. Jumping over an obstacle where you're only peeking for a very short amount of time and just getting that information, that's jump peeking. Jiggle peeking would be jumping around the corner, pulling to the left or the right towards the wall that you jumped from, and then pulling back at the same time. So there's just a very, very small window for enemies to shoot you, and typically it's so fast that your eyes can't see the enemy, but you're gonna be able to gather information from your mini-map. And with jump peeking and jiggle peeking alike, it's gonna tell you what character it is. Even if you see an enemy, sometimes it's hard to identify what character that was or if it was multiple enemies, and you're gonna be able to know exactly what character was mid, so then you know if they rotated, if that person's somewhere else now, they obviously rotated off. That's just more information from later on. Bunny hopping is a mechanic in this game where you just jump. Every time you hit the ground, jump, jump, jump. It doesn't increase your momentum, but it can be useful to get to a place very quickly and be hard to shoot. So if you're just trying to run away, for example, if you just run in a straight line, an enemy could just line it up and make it really easy, and it's horizontal, so it's just an easy flick for them because horizontal is a lot easier to hit. But if you're bunny hopping to cover, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to actually score that headshot on you. And this carries us into the most important section, which is the god tier movement section. And there's two players that come to my mind when I think of god tier movement in Asuna and Sinatra. These players basically float around like butter, really know how to use their terrain to their advantage, and have mastered movement perfectly, making them lethal and very difficult to hit. And they pull off things that really shouldn't be possible in a game like this. The first thing that they do incredibly often is they whip out their knives whenever possible. But you might be saying, Mills, how do I whip out my knife without just running into an enemy and then just getting freaking destroyed? Well, it's a combination of several different things. Information, knowing where enemies are or 100% aren't, so you know when you can move from one place to another because you know you're not going to run into an enemy in that time. Game sense, which is just based on the information that you knew about enemies or where they were before, where are they most likely not or most likely at, and then the speed. Whipping out that knife very often is going to allow you to just get to places quicker, and every single situation when you're not challenging an angle, these players are going to have their knife out so they move faster. Now, another very important thing that these players are doing a lot, and it's something that you have to learn how to do if you want to dominate with mobility, is jump often to upward vertical places. You got to remember that you gain that first shot accuracy when your feet hit the ground, and when you're in the air, of course, you're not going to have that accuracy. And if you just jump on flat ground and then you land on flat ground, that entire time you're in the air, you can't fire at enemies, you can't do damage to them, then you have to land, then your first shot accurate. you are more difficult to hit, but you're in a static motion, and it's gonna be a long time till you can shoot at the enemy. Now, imagine you jump from the low ground to a box, on top of a box. You're actually gonna be in the air a lot less. So you have that upward vertical mobility, but you don't have the fall, the slow fall. You can go straight from the ground to up, make yourself more difficult to shoot, but the second you land on the top of the box, your first shot accurate again, and you can kill someone. And so you can use terrain a lot, jumping around terrain, whipping out your knife, jumping out, whipping out your gun, firing on someone. And a perfect example of this is like how you go up the stairs, where you can like jump up the stairs incredibly quickly, jump, 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 because you're constantly landing on the next ledge and you're not floating the entire arc. You're doing like a half arc or even just like a straight line upward and diagonal. Now, in combination with this, if you really want your mobility to work with you, you gotta know when you are perfectly accurate and when you are not. This is gonna take some practice because you never wanna like try to jump on top of a box and then you start firing before you're actually accurate. You like just touch the box, you're not quite perfectly accurate. You start firing, you lose control of your spray. Or maybe you just jumped, you bunny hopped around cover, and then you just started firing a little bit before you get that accuracy back. So it's something that you're gonna have to practice, but it's something that if you wanna master mobility, you got to really learn it. Now, a really important thing with this is also knowing when that perfect accuracy or that semi-accuracy is not even needed. So sometimes when you have the speed, you have the momentum, you got the Dr. Disrespect shades on, and you're flying at an enemy, it doesn't matter if you are perfectly accurate, especially if you're very close. If you catch them by surprise, all you're trying to do is overwhelm them, and you're basically prioritizing speed over everything. So start firing before you even hit that ground. You're about to hit the ground, you're starting to fire. You're with a Spectre, you're just gonna spray and spray control the entire thing, because the idea is you're outputting damage to them very quickly. You're on top of them, you fly up on a box, so you fly down on top of them. But ultimately, you need to make that call and you need to learn when to kind of forego some of the fundamental things about gunplay and when you need to wait and get that accuracy back. What is more important? How far away is the enemy? Have you caught them by surprise? There's a lot of different factors here that you need to consider. There's never a perfect yes or no scenario. And this is why often you see people like Asuna freaking shooting on the zip line when a lot of people wouldn't do that, but he catches people completely off guard. Sure, he's not going to be perfectly accurate, but he's coming from an angle people don't expect, and he knows that he can control it enough to kill them before they have time to identify where he's shooting them from. Now, the last and most important thing has to do with game sense and making a hypothesis. So if you're in a clutch situation 1v3, you need to make a hypothesis about where enemies are and actively and seamlessly move from one possibility to the next. So let's say, based on prior information, you know the enemy could be in 2 separate places. So you quickly challenge one of the areas and the enemy's not there. Now, in your mind, you should be thinking, oh, they're probably in the other situation. But if you already have thought about this prematurely, you're already moving. You're bunny hopping to cover, you're making some type of mobile action to get out of fire from the other angle because you had a hypothesis, you made a play off of it, you were incorrect, but you're already ready to do the next thing on the list. You're already ready to challenge the next person. You're already ready to execute the next action. And the true takeaway here is you need to be combining mobility with fast thinking and pre-planning so that you already have steps in advance to do after you execute any given task. But if you have any more questions, definitely ask me down below, and go to the GameLeap website for in-depth tips and tricks, VOD reviews, and so much more. Thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love your faces, and I'll see you next time.